Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. So last time we spoke, we were talking a little bit about investing and how the ecosystem works. Today, I believe what we talked about that we were going to kind of go over a little deeper was the actual wholesaling process, correct?
Yes.
Anna?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. So the wholesaling process. So basically, the way the wholesale, I guess let me start with this. Has anybody on this call worked a deal from beginning to end with a wholesaler?
Not me.
Yes.
Has anybody ever had
Yeah.
an encounter? You have, Anna?
Yeah, I was actually the wholesaler.
So you wholesale the property. Okay, how much money did you make?
15,000 on one and 10,000 on another.
Okay, so you wholesaled and you made 15,000 on one and 15,000 on another. So you locked in did you do a double close or did you do an assignment?
Assignment.
Okay, and were you working for a broker?
No.
Okay, and how did you find the deal?
I went to Fortune Builders, and the guy that wanted to buy a property sat right next to me, and then one of my friends had another guy sell him the property.
Got it. Okay, good. So you just happen to be in the flow of somebody who wants to buy and somebody who wants to sell, and you put them together.
Yeah.
Excellent. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you knew exactly what you're doing and 1 being you just got lucky, what would you say you would scale yourself?
I think both of them, I was like a 2. I understood
2.
some of it, but not really
Okay.
everything.
Good. Because if it was a 10, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Because making $15,000 a deal is pretty good, and you probably would still be doing that, right? If it was a 10. So let's talk about how the wholesaling works and how we can take it from accidentally running into wholesalers to making it just part of our ecosystem, part of something we tap into depending on the situation, depending on the process. Okay. So first thing, with wholesaling, just so you know, there are different rules for people with licenses versus people that don't have licenses, because wholesaling is kind of not really straightforward. Okay. It's like you just said, Anna, you find a buyer and a seller, and you basically buy it low and you sell it high, meaning you know this guy will pay $15,000 more, you know this other guy will sell his property for $15,000 less, and you get in the middle. Make sense? In real estate, it's a little different, because in real estate, you kind of are representing the client, and they know that that you're going to get paid, but you're not necessarily getting paid within the difference. They know exactly what you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid a percentage of the transaction, regardless of what they go ahead and negotiate. With wholesaling, how much money you make depends on how good of a negotiator you are against the person you're selling the property to, and against the person you're buying the property from. What I mean by that is this: if you're able to find, like you said, somebody to the left of you that says, hey, I want to sell a property, okay? And they say, I want a net 200,000, okay? And then the person to the right of you says, hey, I want a property, and I want to pay no more than 215,000, okay? And you show him that property and they both agree, perfect. There's a $15,000 difference you can make. Now herein lies the challenges, okay? There's no inspection period. Or if there is one, it's a very short one. And if there is an inspection period and your client says, hey, I need a $5,000 concession. Now guess what happens? You can't tell your client, hey, my buyer needs a $5,000 concession. You have to come up with a story of why you're going to reduce the price to the person you're buying it from, so then you don't lose money when you sell it to the person you're selling it to. So now you have a $215,000 deal that they're negotiating $5,000 in inspections, and you have one or two choices. Either A, you can get the seller that you're selling the property to reduce it by 5,000, or you can just eat the difference and make 10 instead of 15,000. Make sense? That's the first hurdle. The second hurdle will be once you go ahead and do lien and title. Okay. You do a lien and title search, and a title search comes back and says, hey, you've got an open violation here for $5,000. Okay. So now we have a choice. We can either A, convince the buyer to pay for that extra $5,000, or B, get the seller to reduce the $5,000 on his original $200,000 net price, or C, you eat it based on the money you're going to make. So all of a sudden now the seller said, hey, I told you 200,000 net. If you can't give me that price, then I'm moving on. And you don't want to lose the deal, and the buyer doesn't want to pay for it. So what do? You eat it. Now you're making 5,000. So that's the difference between wholesaling and selling regular real estate. And that's the fact that you basically have to eat all costs in the middle, or you have to renegotiate with the seller, but you're the buyer. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic. You don't get to say, oh, okay, well, this deal's dead, let's go back on the market. You don't have that kind of time, because you told the buyer, the seller, that you're going to buy their property in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. So you got to move quickly. And then the last thing I want to mention before I start to dig deep a little bit into wholesaling is, when you wholesale, you might have to do a double close, okay? Because you might not want the seller to know how much money you're making, because a lot of times they don't think that you're reselling it to somebody else. They think that they're selling it to you. They say, hey, how much will you pay for my house? And you say 200,000. They say, fine, 200,000, not paying less. And when they find out you sold it for 215, they might not sign. They might get upset and walk away from the deal. They're not understanding what, oh, okay, yeah, you got to make money. That's not the way they think. They think, hey, I sold it for you for 200. I negotiated my price all the way down, and now you went ahead and resold it behind my back. Now I don't want to do a deal with you. So it's a very delicate scenario, and it's also kind of illegal when you're a licensed real estate agent, because you're basically defrauding the public, in the sense that unless you tell the buyer, the seller, hey, I am selling this property for $215,000 and I'm buying it for $200, you've technically not done your job as a licensee to disclose. And the state is going to look at you in higher regard, because they're going to say, hey, you have a license to kill in real estate. You know more than the average person in real estate. So it's your obligation not to use that against people to make money off of. Does that make sense? So how does wholesaling work in our ecosystem? Before we move on into how we can make it work in our ecosystem, does anybody have any questions about wholesaling, how it works, the process, and how it could be different or the same based on whether or not you're licensed or just a regular person on the street?
Ralph, how to do the double closing, and what's the
How
best?
do you do? Are you asking me how to do a double closing?
Yes, and what other way? What's the other way we have? If we
What's
don't do
other
a
way?
double closing, what other way you can do it?
You can do an assignment. Okay, so a double closing basically just means that you are actually the buyer. Okay, you're going to buy this property at 200,000. You're going to close on it at 200,000, and then as soon as you close on it, you're going to close with the next buyer for 215,000. The downside of doing a double closing is that you have to pay double closing costs. You have to pay double title insurance, double documents on the deed, double settlement fees, all of that. Make sense? So
Makes sense, but
the double
can the title company do that in simultaneously at the same time?
Only a handful of title companies in Dade County are going to do what I just said. The rest of them are going to say they can't do it because it's a legal issue. So there's a very specific way to do it, and you know, unless you have the right title company, you're not supposed to do that. So that's a whole nother topic we can get into. We can spend the next 20 minutes talking about title companies. But the best thing for you guys is, since you guys can't control title companies, you can get together with a title company who can actually do a double close. Double closes are for people that have enough money in the deal. You're buying it from the seller at 200 and you're selling it for 250. Now there's enough meat on the bone, we can do a double close. If you're buying it for 200 and you're selling it for 215, there's not enough money there to pay closing costs, so you're going to do an assignment.
Ralph,
Yes.
We have 2 minutes because Lee has the meeting and we're on his account.
Okay. So what do you guys want to do? How do we end it now, or do we jump on to another Zoom?
No, you guys could continue. Just as agents flow in, just know that's why they're flowing in.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think most people would like the topic.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the assignment, Ralph?
Yes. So the assignment is, you know, that little part on the contract where it says can assign,
Yes.
cannot assign, and all that. Well, that's specifically for what I'm talking about. So the assignment, the way the assignment is going to work is basically you assign the contract terms to somebody else. Okay. And when you assign it, you're basically saying, hey, I'm buying this property for $200,000 and these terms. I'm going to sell it to you for $215,000 and the same terms. So you're bound by the original contract, but with an addendum that's stating the new purchase price. So what that's going to do is if you put up a deposit, that deposit is going to be probably non-refundable with the same terms of the contract. That way, in case you as the wholesaler default on the loan or on the deal, the money that's lost is you lose your deposit, but then you get the deposit of the next person that is trying to buy that you're trying to wholesale property to. Here's my advice to you guys. As far as exactly how the assignment works and how double close works, that's more of a title company class. And I suggest that, you know, you talk to a title company that does it. And if you don't know one, I can, you know, put you in the right direction to talk to one. But that's a whole nother thing. What I really want to get to is what I'm going to get to next is how does wholesaling work in our ecosystem? Because the truth is, all of us on this call that are licensees, there's a good chance that you are going to get in trouble if you try to wholesale. Okay, because there's a legalities in it that you cannot do as a realtor, and if you try to wholesale, they can fine you or take your license away. So we can work with wholesalers. There's no rules saying we cannot work with wholesalers. It's when we try to wholesale ourselves, it can become a problem. So the way it works for me in my ecosystem is I have a very good relationship with a handful of wholesalers that I've worked with for the last 5-6 years. Hey, Larry. We're just talking about wholesaling. So 5 or 6 years. And what I do with these wholesalers is they tell me, hey, I've got a property, I've got a deal. Once they send me a deal, okay, they send me all sorts of information like it's worth this and this is how much the rehab is, blah, blah, blah. I really don't pay attention to anything other than the purchase price, the address, and whether the property is going to be vacant at closing and is free of liens, violations, or open permits. The rest I can do myself. I'll underwrite the deal myself based on what I think the house will sell for, how much the rehab is going to be, and what I need to buy it at to make money. So I continually network and meet with and work with wholesalers for the purpose of when I talk to an investor that's willing to do it my way, not an investor that wants to tell me how to do it. An investor is willing to do it my way. I can work with a wholesaler. We can do a deal. I'm not going to get paid necessarily on the deal when they buy it, but I'll get paid when we sell it. So when we sell it, I list the property, I make a commission. When we buy it, I work with a wholesaler. Now, doing that is like playing with fire, okay? You might get burned if you play with fire if you don't know what you're doing or if you're not careful, okay? Because a wholesaler's job is to sell you a property and take your deposit. A buyer's job is to make sure that you underwrite the deal properly and you're so confident in the numbers that you're willing to put up your non-refundable escrow with your client. In case it does go wrong, they're going to lose their money. And if it goes right, they're going to be stuck with a property now they have to sell. So you have to be very clear on the fact that you are confident that you're going to be able to make money and you're going to be able to turn this property over. Then there's a ton of other people that are involved in the investment world that we can talk about on another call that can help you get to the finish line. But when in doubt, reach out to me and talk to me. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. I'll be more than happy to mentor you guys on a wholesale deal if you come across one or if your client needs one. And I'll show you very quickly how to work with investors in this market, because investors can be a huge waste of time and very unloyal, or an investor can be very fruitful because they'll do many properties in 1 year and will do it exactly the way you tell them to do. But the only way they're going to listen to you and respect you is if they know that you have a clear path for them and that you know more than they do about the process, and that you're not going to vary from what is morning, that you're not going to vary in from what you know is important in the process. And if they do, you have to draw that line in the sand and decide, hey, you know what? At this point, maybe I'm not the right agent for you. You might have to find somebody else in regard to wholesale. So guys, that's my tidbit on wholesaling. I know a lot of other people are jumping on the call now. If you guys have, and Lee's gonna take over, if you guys have any questions about wholesaling or investing off market deals, I'd be more than happy to help you guys or work with you guys or partner with you guys. I work with a handful of investors now that I mentor, and I can do the same for you guys. So you guys let me know, okay?